Okay guys, I'm going to show you just how loud this engine is. Besides the fact that I've got a surging idle, it kind of goes away at times. I'm at the junkyard and I thought I'd show you a reason why probably my engine is so noisy. Underneath the cam are these little rubber O-rings that sort of cushion the lifters onto the springs. Right here is where one is missing. This one's cracked and they're all sort of broken. That makes a lot of noise. If not throwing anything away is your thing, you are in luck, as I am today. This is what the valve silencer seal looks like. It usually comes with the valve stem kit for the 240. I've had this since 2011 when I did the turbo swap on my first 242. And you can see how the valve gets squished and hardened over time. This one's, you know, soft rubber, and that is just crunchy, ready to fall apart. Wow. I'm just so happy that I have these still. I didn't throw anything away. I've got a whole box full of like various O-rings and gaskets from, you know, Subaru and Volvo parts that I've had over the years, but this is great. So I can go ahead and start with the tune-up, swapping out the cam. Hopefully everything goes smoothly. I'm going to begin with Seafoam, a product that has been under much controversy and even more success. Seafoam motor treatment for gas and diesel engines to help clean injectors, carb jets, fuels, control moisture in fuel, quiet noisy lifters, clean deposits, add lubricity to fuel, lube upper cylinders, de-ice, and anti-gel. In short, miracle in a can. Pretty cool. Basically what we do is we add a third to the oil, we add a third to the gas tank, and the following third we sip, not slurp, through a vacuum hose while the engine is idling. We're going to notice a bunch of white smoke coming out the back end, and it'll be doing its thing. I'll drive it around a little bit, let it loosen up that oil, break up all the old deposits, park the car, drain the oil immediately while it's still hot, and then begin with changing out my front main seal, camshaft, and the camshaft silencers on the bottom of the buckets. Shall we begin? I'm going to show you something that really just bothers me about these cars. Look at these wires. See how the sheathing on it just crumbles? Oh, it's horrible, hideous, absolutely. These are for the washer pump. There's like there's two connectors for it right there, and they just transfer off. Actually, the previous owner, what he did is he wired one of these, I should say plumbed. He plumbed one of these to go up here in the front, and it's actually a mister. There's a little spray nozzle there, and so when you pull the lever for the sprayer, it sprays right there in the front, and I suppose that's to help cool the car additionally. So anyways, I cut the harness back here, and it also shows a lot of dryness and deterioration. I just clipped the corner and the whole thing split. You can see the wires are okay in there. The turn signal wires are also fine. This is for the turn signals and the headlights, and they're great. So we can see that this 1 pint, 16 fluid ounces, 473 milliliters is just shy of 2 cups, or half a quart. So we're gonna put in 5 ounces everywhere, and there'll be like an extra ounce that goes in one or the other. Adding to the engine oil and the gasoline is easy. The hard part is when it comes time to add it to the intake. A lot of people make the mistake of just sticking in an intake hose and letting it suck it up. That potentially could hydrolock your engine. You could have a lot of issues with water compression failure in the engine, so you don't want to do that. You just want to sip it a little bit at a time. You'll notice the idle start to dip, and then you'll keep doing that a little bit at a time, until eventually it's made its way through. Don't be alarmed when you see the white smoke. That's part of the cleaning experience. According to the can label instructions, you only are supposed to use 1.5 ounce per quart. We have just over 5 ounces, which is going to treat somewhere around 4.5 quarts of oil, but it should be enough. We're dividing it by thirds. So this can be used before or after an oil change, and when the oil becomes dirty, just change the oil. Since our oil is already old, I think we're going to drive it around the block, let it clear up a bit, and flush it all out. It's going to take a while, but you want to make sure you don't bog the engine down. Just give it a little bit of juice at a time. You only do this if you love your car. And if you love your car, you'll take your time. We have about 1 ounce or 2 left, but we're seeing some good results. Okay, our Seafoam is all empty. Now we're going to go for a little bit of a drive. Under the car now, our oil is warmed up. We were looking, it's actually right around 29-30 psi at idle, which is usually what it's about when you do some high-spirited driving, which is what the high-spirited driving is just what those advertisers use to sort of cover their butt so they don't say racing products or whatever. But pretty much another word for just speeding. Anyways, now that everything's nice and hot, gosh, that oil is ugly. Ooh, glad I'm doing this now. I'm gonna be camping in a few days, and so that's why I'm doing all this work to Carol. Really ugly, kind of brownish oil. Very dark, mysterious, but not handsome. So when it's warmed up like that, it's a lot runnier. It's easier to get it all drained out. It's been a couple minutes, our oil is still draining, which is great. So in the meantime, I'm going to remove all of the front accessories, and then we're going to pull off the valve cover. Might as well clean it up while we're at it. We're going to put on our new cam. We're going to check our clearances. We're also going to check the clearances on the old cam just to see how far off it was, if it was off at all. It's really easy to remove the valve cover. There are 10 bolts in pairs. They're all 10mm. That'll come straight off. To remove the camshaft itself, we're going to have to pull off the timing belt. I'm going to be changing out the front main seal, so I might as well just pull everything off. I don't think that was supposed to be in there. These are all numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's a number stamped on the block. Just make sure that the direction stays the same when you reinstall them. Don't let the washers drop either. Those will be important to pull out now. The magnet, just to be quicker. Okay, and the moment of truth, where we find out exactly what kind of power-robbing cam it is. On the back of every Volvo cam, there is stamped a letter. This is an M cam. I pulled 8 240 camshafts today, and I pulled 2 740 camshafts. All of the 240s were M cams, which is a very mild, power-robbing. I think the only one worse than the M is probably the L cam, which came on some of the high fuel economy models of the 80s. So here are our 3 camshafts. Visually, you're not really able to tell much of a difference, but if I pulled out the measuring tools and told you the cam lobe specs, you would notice which ones are superior, better valve overlap times, etc. You can also notice in the back that these 2 cams are notched. That's because they come from 740s, which have a distributor that's driven on the rear. The 240 distributor is driven by a different gear altogether. But other than that, they're interchangeable. You can't put a 240 cam in a 740 because they won't be cut out in the back. But this is a T cam, this is a T cam, and that's the stock M cam. T cams are reportedly give you better low-end torque. A couple drivers who have actually taken off the turbo from the models have reported feeling more of a torque pool at lower RPM. And then around 4,000 RPM, the cam sort of becomes gutless. The best cam for the daily driver, which would have been really nice if I could find one, is the A cam or the B cam. I believe the A cam is only overseas. The B cam is the best for daily driving according to various forums, Turbo Bricks, Sweet Speed, Brickboard, etc. But the T cam should be better than the M cam. Actually, anything's better than the M cam. Well, Loud Engine, it looks like we've discovered that you're missing 1, 2, 3 of your cushions, and that is what's causing a lot of the noise. I can't say entirely all of the noise. At least that should quiet down the engine a little bit. We're going to pull out the rest of them because they don't look to be in great shape anyways. All sort of flattened out. You can see how they just sort of sit in there. They don't have a fancy tool to remove them. So that's good for us. Maybe the pieces for this one have fallen down in there. I'm going to try to see if there's anything to fish out. So as I'm scraping off the old RTB on the gasket surface, I plugged up the nostrils, which are the oil drain holes, with some paper towels so that we don't get debris going down into the crankcase, potentially clogging up the oil pump. So that's just another extra step that you should take. Believe it or not, this is actually my first time replacing a camshaft on a 240. Done it on the V70 and some other cars, but first time on a 240 Red Block series. So I'm just kind of going off of common sense and the repair manual. So if I can do it, you can too. As I get ready to reinstall these, I lubricate them with some thick assembly lube to make sure that we don't have a dry start and cause any bearing damage. So now we're going to put bolts on, finger tight, on as many of the cam caps as we can, and then we're going to tighten them slowly in sequence until it comes down to the final torque sequence. All of our cam caps are tightened to 15 foot-pounds. Got the gear back on so that we can check our top dead center and rotate the camshaft, get our clearances on each valve. Clearances 12 to 16 thousandths of an inch when cold. Here's our feeler gauge set, labeled from 12 to 16 thousandths. We're basically going to stick this underneath the cam lobe between that and the lifter bucket, and we're going to feel for a slight drag. And if it's out of specification, then we will have to pull off that camshaft and change out the shims, because I don't really have the special tool required to do it with the camshaft installed. And it's not so bad anyways. I mean, these engines are cake, right? So the manual wants us to turn the engine by the crankshaft, which would require attaching the timing belt, rotating the main pulley 180 degrees after checking cylinder 1 to check cylinder 3, then 4, then 2, which is the firing order. But we all know that 2 rotations of the crank equal 1 rotation of the cam, and since it's a non-interference motor, yay Volvo, I'm going to just turn the cam 90 degrees in between each check. So I'm going to go cylinder 1 with top dead center, which is the little timing mark up here, rotate 90 degrees, check cylinder 3, 90 degrees, check cylinder 4, and the last 90 degrees on 2. The thing that's kind of confusing me is the fact that I've put in those new rubber valve silencers, and they actually stick up a little bit until they warm up and compress, which is why it's important to check this hot, because I'm doing it cold. So what we're going to do is we're going to let it warm up. I will check the valve clearance. Okay, there's our new front main seal installed, and that wasn't so bad. Removing the old seal kind of sucks, but hey, what can you do? So it's about 12:30. I got the tune-up finished, and she purrs. I got the new NGK spark plug, swapped out the spark plug wires with the set that matched, since this one was an incomplete set. The new cam is real quiet, it's got a good idle to it, no issues with timing, so now we just need to check for oil leaks, and then we can take it out for a test drive. Hey guys, welcome to another edition of It's Always Sunny in Albuquerque. It's another beautiful day, and it's time for another update. So it's been about 2 days since I put in the new cam following the Seafoam treatment, and there's some more issues that have gradually worsened. Now, when I first bought the car, there was a slight hesitation and a wavering idle. Now that seems to be normal for some people, but I'm kind of a perfectionist. I want my car to run at its best. So as soon as I did the Seafoam, I put the cam in, I went on my first test drive, and it was just doing kind of like at full throttle or even half throttle. You'd be driving and it would just kind of jolt back at you, and you'd notice it a lot, especially on a flat paved road. So my first thought is something to do with the ignition, which is a very common thing on these LH 2.0 cars, which would be the little ignition box here. That's always an issue with the older cars when the contacts stop connecting. Well, I'm gonna continue my general tune-up. After cleaning the throttle body and cleaning the MAF, nothing went away, and what I'm going to do next is clean the inside of the distributor, make sure that the Hall effect sensor is clear, and then I'm going to clean the connection on the ICU. And the most important thing, the best filter that money can buy, I'm going to change out the fuel filter. My theory is that using the Seafoam may have dislodged some of the gunk in the gas tank, which in turn clogged up the filter. Now, the last time that this filter has been changed, it says 334,000 miles on the record here on the hood, but I don't know how long ago that was, because my odometer is like 100,000 less. But you get the point. We're going to change out the filter. I'll show you guys how to do that, and hopefully our hesitation will go away entirely. Another thing I'm going to check is the fuel pressure regulator, just to make sure that the diaphragm is good on that. Both fuel pumps were changed in August according to the previous owner, so I shouldn't have to go in and put new pumps, but I'm still going to pull both pumps out. I'm going to check to make sure that they're clear, that the sock on the pickup and the little rubber hose is intact on the main pump inside the tank, and then the second pump. But you get the point, right? I'm going to pull this connector out. Inside is just old, probably dielectric grease or something, and then here inside the connector is just all brown from years of dust and lubrication. So we're gonna just give it a good spray, clean it up really nice, and put some new grease on there to keep the connections. So I have bent some of the pins inside to make more contact, and I've also cleaned it up really well using a brush, some carb cleaner, or brake cleaner. I don't think you want to use throttle body cleaner or MAF cleaner because they're kind of hard on plastic. Ask me how I know. And then I'm going to stick some of the basic connector protector. It's just like a dielectric grease. It's going to go in and make good contact on all of those. You want to be a bit liberal with the dielectric grease so that you're ensuring a good connection all around. I've sold a few 240s that had a problem with the ignition connector here getting loose, and I spent lots of time, many hours, trying to figure out what was the issue causing the hesitation, causing the poor idling. Actually, the biggest issue that I had was I would be driving and the car would just fall on its face at acceleration, completely lose power, just like someone turned the key off. Well, it's not so bad with Carol, but I sort of learned my lesson with those cars not to overlook these crucial components here. There are a couple ways to check the fuel pressure regulator. Pull off the hose and you see if there's a strong smell of gas or actual presence of gasoline in it. Another thing you could do is just check the diaphragm. A lot of people just unplug it while the car is idling, and you should notice a slight change in the RPM. I'm going to apply vacuum to the hose and see if the diaphragm's bypassing gas or not. Well, it held vacuum, so I'm just going to reconnect it and we'll move on to changing the filter. So we're here at the back of the car, and if you go underneath, right here is our little cradle for the fuel pump and the fuel filter. So there are 3 12mm nuts, and there's the pump and the filter. Well, I just got back from the test drive, and I would say that replacing the fuel filter and something to do with that ignition has cured about 60 to 70% of the hesitation. I can still feel it a little bit. Well, now it's time to pull out the distributor and give it a good cleaning. Make sure that the O-ring is sealing and that there's no debris inside where the Hall effect sensor is, so that we're getting a clean RPM signal to the computers. I'm not sure how I missed this before, but there's a lot of scoring on the inside of the distributor cap, so that's going to be replaced now. Also, if you can tell, this rotor is not looking too hot either, so I might as well replace that too. I'm sure we've got an extra one in that box of parts that came with the car. What do you know, it came with a spare. With the cap and rotor removed, you want to make sure that your engine is at top dead center, and that the rotor, before you remove it, is pointing at the number 1 cylinder location, which a good place marker would be that bolt on the thermostat housing. Carol is being a very, very bad girl. So what's going on is the ignition is missing still, a lot of hesitation, and just now coming into the neighborhood I turned left and it stalled on me, and the gas tank is pretty low, which is very indicative of the in-tank pump, which is the lift pump. That basically is the large volume, low pressure, and then you have the second pump next to the fuel filter, which is the low volume, high pressure, if I'm not mistaken. I know that the gas tank is low, but if the fuel sock in the gas tank is clogged, or if the pickup hose is torn or deteriorated, that'll do it. I also got a new battery. I'm $120 lighter, unfortunately, but sort of had to because the other one was dying and it was 7.5 years old. So yay. And now I'm gonna try a different math. I'm going to take a look at my NOx sensors. I did a lot of research online at the Volvo forums, and some great information there, because a lot of people online are asking the same question, and forums go incomplete as they'll ask the question and people say, well, it could be this, it could be that, have you checked your fuel pressure, blah, blah, blah. No, I don't have a tool to check my fuel pressure. Well, there's not much you can do without diagnostics, blah, blah, blah. And then it's kind of a dead end, so hopefully I get some results. Okay, our rear cover is removed, and we have access to the covering plate for the fuel pump and the tank. Well, good news and bad news. Good news is the pump looks good as new. Like I said, it was changed last August. Bad news is that's not the issue. That's the thing with these old 240s. You never know what it really is, because it could be so many things. Also, the tank looks nice inside. Our gas looks green. That's funny. Well, I discovered the issue. Timing was all messed up. Where it's at 0 right now, where I marked with the Sharpie, there are actually marks on the pulley here at the 20. Well, that's top dead center for the sprocket further into the crank, but not the pulley itself, according to the cover. So my timing is 20 degrees advanced. She purrs like a kitten.